Hi, welcome to Kingdom Seeker Circle. Today we are on the 14th episode of our series. We've already talked about Jesus calling his disciples. Now we're going to be stepping into the Sermon on the Mount, the famous Sermon of Ethics. And what we naturally do in these type of videos is we look at what the text says, why Matthew is saying that, and what stands out that gives weight to the context. And so let's begin now. Up to this point, Jesus has been moving, healing, teaching, drawing crowds from everywhere. And Matthew tells us when Jesus had seen those crowds, he goes up on the mountain, and that alone shows that the narrative is slowing us down. Mountains in Scripture are places of revelation as well. They are where God speaks, covenants are formed, and identity is clarified. Jesus goes up on the mountain, and then he sits down. Now that matters. In the first century, teachers sat when they were about to give authoritative instruction. Matthew tells us here what follows is not commentary, but a declaration. The disciples come to him, not just the crowds. Mainly he's talking to the disciples, and the crowds just naturally show up as well. But those who have already chosen to follow him are circling around him, listening to the teacher teach. And so Jesus opens his mouth and begins to teach. But the first thing he teaches is not what to do. It is who is blessed. Who does the kingdom of heaven bless? Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. That opening line sets the tone for everything. Poor in spirit does not mean spiritually lazy or morally weak. It means those who know they have nothing to offer God except their own trust. And Jesus says the kingdom already belongs to them. He blesses those who mourn, not because grief is good, but because God meets them in it. He blesses the meek, not the forceful, not the dominating, those who refuse to seize power at the expense of faithfulness. Then he blesses those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, not those satisfied with appearances, but those who ache for God's justice, goodness, and truth. And Jesus promises they will be filled. As the Beatitudes, as we call them, continue, the focus turns outward. It starts inward and moves outward. Merciful, those who will receive mercy. The pure in heart, who will see God. The peacemakers, who will be called children of God. And then Jesus crosses a line which most teachers would probably avoid. He blesses the persecuted, not hypothetically, not abstractly, but he blesses them. He says, "But blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me." Now this is deeply personal. Jesus doesn't hide the cost of the kingdom, but he reframes it. "Rejoice and be glad," he says, "because great is your reward in heaven." And then he anchors their suffering in history. "This is how they persecuted the prophets who were before you." Matthew wants us to see what Jesus is doing here. First of all, Jesus is positioning himself as the authoritative teacher of God's will. Like Moses on Sinai, but greater. He is not merely receiving the instruction like Moses did. He is giving it out. Second, Jesus is redefining blessing. In Jesus' kingdom, blessing is not proof of comfort. It is evidence of alignment. The blessed life is not the easy life. It is the faithful one. Matthew wants his readers to understand that the kingdom of heaven does not run on visible success. Third, Matthew is identifying the people of the kingdom. Before Jesus ever says, "You have heard it said, but I say to you," Jesus is making something clear. The kingdom already belongs to people who feel overlooked, exhausted, dependent, and misunderstood. And there are details here that deepen the weight of the passage. Notice that Jesus sits. This is formal. This is intentional. This means that this was deliberately said. Matthew is saying, lean in. Notice also the framing. The first beatitude and the eighth both promise the kingdom in the present tense. It's not will be, but theirs is. And the kingdom is not postponed until perfection. It is present among the faithful now. And finally, notice the progression. The Beatitudes begin inward with the posture of heart. They end outward with pressure from the world. Matthew is preparing us, okay? If your heart's shaped by the kingdom, your life will eventually clash with other kingdoms. And that clash is not failure, it's confirmation. This is how the Sermon on the Mount begins. Not with commands, not with condemnation, but with blessing. Jesus looks at the mixed crowd of the hopeful and of the hurting, and he says, you are not outside the kingdom. You are exactly who it is for. And with that being said, go in peace, and God bless you.